This is a microbit, but it's version 2. So this has just come out, a new version of the microbit. So the microbit, I've got one of the original ones here. If you don't know already, these were little programming devices given to secondary school children to learn programming, and they were given out as one per child for, I think it's just a 1 year group, funded by the BBC. And they are actually really quite good fun. They're really good. I used them in programming with some children as part of the Code Club, and we'd done some scratch programming, and then when I brought out the microbits, you could see how they were engaged a lot more. They enjoyed the scratch programming, but having actually seen something physically appear and creating this badge that we did was really engaging for them. So the new features on the new version, Bluetooth version 5, Bluetooth LE mode, and a microphone as well, which increases what the options are. And on the back there's also a little speaker, so there's a tiny little speaker on there. Also, there's been a significant upgrade to the microcontroller or processor that's on it, and the amount of memory, which hopefully is going to be really useful for MicroPython, because MicroPython really struggled. You couldn't use the Bluetooth, for instance, because of the amount of memory that would be needed. So potentially that's something that could be a real benefit in future. The best way of telling whether it's a version 1 or version 2 is to look on the back, and the new one just has a little V2 in the bottom corner, which isn't on there. There's also other ways you can tell, but generally looking at it, they do look very similar. No change to the connectors or the layout of the front, and most of the accessories that were available for the version 1 can still be used, but not all of them. So I'm going to have a quick go with this and see what we can do. There's not much in the way of an unboxing, as this is how it comes, just in a Ziploc bag. There's a getting started guide with a few basic instructions, a safety guide, and then the actual microbit is contained in what looks like a static sensitive bag. Like that. I suppose it's functional, but I did like, this is what the old microbit came in. The microbit version 1 was in a nice little paper bag, which I thought was quite nice. But none of that with this one, just straight into the into a plastic bag. So the microbit doesn't come with any cables or anything, so you're going to have to provide your own. Here I've got a standard USB to micro USB cable, used on most mobile phones until fairly recently when the USB-C has come in. So unfortunately they've not moved to USB-C yet, but most people have probably got lots of these cables. I'm going to connect it into a Raspberry Pi. I'm going to use this as the power source, and then also later on to do some programming. But initially, just going to power it up and watch its default sequence, which should give you a little show. Okay, so it's good. Hello, a smiley face, and there's been a bit of a tune to show that there's a speaker in it. So following the instructions, so we've got press the buttons, which is what it's telling us to do next, then shake, tilt, and then 5 claps as well. As we go through the startup sequence, I notice on the video there's some LEDs that are not showing as lit when they should be. I think this is a synchronization issue due to the camera speed being in sync with the flash rate of the LEDs. So when I actually looked at it, these are lit correctly and you can read the text messages going across the screen. I'll put some text on the screen to show what stage in the startup process we are in. Now that I've plugged the microbit into the Raspberry Pi, it's come up with a removable medium, so that indicates that it's visible as though it's a USB flash drive. And here we can see it mounted, and there's a details.txt which has got details about the hardware, and there's a microbit.htm. So there's a user guide, and looks like this has all been updated because it's got mentions about the microphone, the speaker, and then it's got the original microbit there as well. So there's quite a lot of information on there, including the new. So here's the new features: the speaker, the microphone, a power LED to show when it's being powered up, useful if it's plugged into batteries. New yellow LED which flashes when it's communicating, and a reset and power button so that you can just press reset. So I'm just going to go, so we're in the Chromium browser, so we're just going to go to the website that it says on the guide, which is microbit.org/start. And this gives you the starting point if you want to start coding, start programming. So there's various bits of information about how you transfer and things like that. If you're in the Chrome browser, then you can now push directly to the microbit, and it also supports being able to program from an app from Android or iOS. And those were actually available in the older version as well, but you sometimes had to flash update the code that's on the microbit. So there's two languages available, or two environments available from, in fact, it is something quite interesting. So it obviously works with Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS and Linux, and in fact actually shows you an example using a Raspberry Pi, which is quite interesting. So that's what we're going to be using. So that shows you dragging and dropping the hex file that you can create. So we're just going to have a go, going to program and then go to the Let's Code site. So it's the Makecode editor, which is a visual editor, and then there's Python editor, which is a text-based Python editor. Let's go to the Makecode editor first and have a look. This is the first time I've used this in a long time, when I was using the original microbit. Hopefully this has been updated to include the new features. So we'll just call this test. And we'll start with the most basic program, just display something. So we've got the on start and forever loops are shown here by default. So let's put a message up on the output, which is probably under basic. Yeah, we can show the LEDs, or there's an icon, show icon, so we can put the heart in there. And let's just start with that. That's very basic, just to test being able to run it. So I'm not sure how you push it direct to the microbit. So yeah, so it's created the hex file and it's just downloaded that. So you can see it here, showing folder. It's just gone into the normal download folder. So if I just clear these bits out, these are from some other project I was doing. So it's just got the hex file. I think it's literally just a case of drag and drop that. So that's just disappeared, and as you can see, it's updated the image. And then it's come back up with the removable medium inserted, so that you can then, it's then ready to add another program. So that's the very basics. So there's an alternative, is a JavaScript mode, where you can write JavaScript. I think you can also, yeah, so this then becomes a reference guide telling you what code you can run. So let's use the show LEDs. So there you go. For instance, if you drag this into the forever loop, it's going to show these LEDs, and looks like, give you more information about the pattern. So there's a video that you can see. Here we go. If you're programming in JavaScript, hash or pound sign, if you refer to that as pound sign, means the LED is turned on, and a full stop, dot, period, whatever you call it, means that an LED is turned off. So if we wanted to create a message on there, I'll just set the corners to be on, as well as the middle one that was on already, and then it should be just a case of download that. Again, it's just dropped it into the downloads folder, and it's added a 1 in brackets this time. You can just send that, and it's uploading. The LEDs flashing, and there we go. So that's the basics of being able to do some very basic programming in either the blocks or the JavaScript. So, interested in looking at, see if there's any of the new features in here. Oh, there we go. There's the microbit too. So the music previously works by playing a tune onto one of the pins, and you could connect those to an external speaker. It looks like here there's a separate block, specifically says microbit version 2, so that's quite good that you can differentiate quite easily whether it'll work or not. And we can set speaker to enabled. And then play sound. So giggle.play. Do we need to add something into that, or is that enough? So that sound expression.play. Yeah, so it looks like it's added one there, giggle. So let's try that one. Oh, there we go. Setting it to false. Be true. We probably only want to run that once in the startup. So just put that there instead. Try that again. The downloads open. The microbit. So I obviously didn't click the open in the file explorer, so I've just opened that manually. It's in /media/pi/microbit, and I could just take the latest one. Transfer in now. And there we go, and it's going to continue doing that rather annoyingly for a while. So I'll just stop by. Just set that to. I didn't think about that. It's going to be. So there we go, the fourth one. Let's just transfer that, and it stopped as soon as it started uploading. There we go. Okay, so that's quite interesting. So probably a bit more appropriate is if we put it so that only when you press the buttons does it play the sound. So we can use the inputs, run code on, oh, we've got the logo is pressed actually, that's a new one. So if the logo is pressed, then If logo is pressed, let's put the curly braces in there. Close the curly brace. There we go. So if I try that and download and then try playing that, the microbit again, in fact, rather than having to navigate down there, it's just at the top, microbit. Take that and drop it into there. I'd left that set to false. So I should be able to download that now. Now it's transferred. It should be possible just to touch the logo, and each time you touch the logo it plays the giggle sound. We can pair the devices so that we don't have to transfer the files manually each time. So I'll just make a different pattern so it's clear that we're uploading the code, and try doing that now, and hopefully this will download straight to the microbit rather than having to save it locally first. Yeah, and that's worked. Okay, so that's a little bit easier than transferring the files now, so I can just clear all those, and we don't need to go back to the block mode. We can have a look at some of the new features in there as well. What it's done is the code we've entered in JavaScript is shown in the block mode as well, so you can switch between the two. Not expecting most of the logic and things to be the same. And yeah, it's really just those extra bits of code. And for me, the part I'm more interested in is, rather than using Makecode, is using Python. Try this first. So it comes up with the hello world and image.heart, so we can at least download that and confirm that we can send to the microbit. So we can just it's like it's this microbit program .hex, so we just transfer that. And it's showing the hello world message. And the heart. So I just thought I'd have a look on here, see what the documentation is. So it does have some nice things. I've never tried these actually, things like I2C. It does have Bluetooth. So this is explaining about the issue with Bluetooth on the first version. It has only 16K of RAM, and as the Bluetooth stack for Python takes up 12K, means there's not enough to run any programs. The new version, I believe, has 32K of RAM, so that should be enough, but it doesn't look like any of that's been added onto here. So I've just noticed actually that there is a option to connect to the microbit. So I'll give this a go. Looks like it's similar to the block codes. Yeah, so it's showing as connected. So from the documentation, so we'll do image.happy. Try that one, and we'll try flashing that straight to the microbit rather than having to go via the file explorer. And that seems to be working fine. So that's actually something useful. So I've realized that they have actually added some of the new features. So for instance, you can try the sound through the speaker. So we'll give that a go. Audio dot play sound dot happy to match with this happy face, and try flashing that to the microbits. And that appears to work. So again, I'll just flash that again to stop it making the sound. So I haven't had a look in too much detail as to what additional code they've put in, whether they've got Bluetooth working or not. It doesn't look like it's made it into the documentation, as I say, from using that, but it looks like there's very much active work in progress on improving that, as there have been changes made just within the last couple of days. So look forward to having a good play with that later, and hopefully they'll develop, particularly the thing I think would be particularly useful would be the Bluetooth support for MicroPython on the microbit. So hopefully they'll be able to add that in future. So I think I'll leave it there for now for this video. This is just a quick introduction to the new version, and I only literally got this, so I've not had much chance to have a look into it in more detail. Something I'll definitely be looking at later, and even if I don't use the new features in Python, I'll still look at what we can do with a microbit. If you're interested in more on the microbit, because I haven't covered much on my channel so far, please leave me a comment so that I know that you're interested in, or share the video. So if it's obviously if it's popular, then that's something I'll try and make more of in future. Hope you found this video useful. If you do, please like and share it, and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in anything to do with microbits, microcontrollers such as Arduinos, the Raspberry Pi, and various other Maker projects. And I'll hopefully see you again soon.